So I'm sharing my screen. So now I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
No, sir. It's not visible, sir.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Sir, it is
Yes, sir.
visible for me, sir.
Yeah, those who are not able to see, I think there is some problem at your end. You can try reconnecting maybe. Because
Yeah, now it's visible, sir. Now it's visible.
okay. Okay, so we will continue with our discussion, and we were looking at the basics of hydro generator and basically a synchronous generator. So last class we discussed about this thing that the two types of windings are there, and there are two components, two mechanical components. One is the rotor which is rotating, another is the stator which is stationary. And electrically speaking, there are two types of components: the windings, which the field winding, which establishes the main working magnetic field, and armature winding is the one where the induced voltage and current is produced, and hence the output power comes from, can be extracted from the armature winding. And as I also said last time, is that these can be put interchangeably. I mean, conceptually, theoretically, there is no problem. I mean, there are issues by the way, but I mean, it is possible. So, and practically, what is the limitation is that if you see the, as we discussed last class also, that the field winding is only carrying a very small DC current, which is basically a excitation current for establishing the magnetic field. Like an example we took last class was that if you have a generator which is having an output current of 1000 amperes, let's say 1 kilo ampere, then the excitation current, the DC excitation current might be of the order of, let's say, 10 amperes. So the winding which is the armature winding which carries the output current is quite heavy one, and it is much more having a much higher amperage. So that's why the armature winding is always placed invariably on the stator in case of a synchronous generator, and the field winding which has to carry the small DC excitation current, that can be easily placed on the rotor, which has to rotate at a very fast speed, as we saw in case of turbo generators. It can go up to 3000 rpm or 3600 rpm, whereas even for a hydro generator it is of the order of few hundred rpm or up to 1000 rpm. Okay, so those are the two windings and the placement of the two windings. Now it says here that non-salient pole rotors are normally used for 2 and 4 pole rotors, while salient pole rotors are normally used for rotors with 4 or more poles. We'll come back to this. Actually, there is a relationship between the number of poles and the speed of rotation. So for now, we'll move ahead, and I'll come back to this point once we discuss the working in more detail. As far as the rotor construction is concerned, it says here, because the rotor is subjected to changing magnetic fields, it is constructed of thin laminations to reduce the eddy current losses. So eddy current losses, I hope at least those who are from electrical background, they will be aware, others might not be aware about it. So basically, okay, let me ask you first. I hope, can anyone answer what is this eddy current loss?
It is the loss which occur due at the body, that means at stator body of the generator or motor, which is due to the circulating current.
So these circulating currents are established in the body of, if you have any ferromagnetic material, there will be some induced currents, circulating currents, and due to that, it doesn't contribute to any useful work output, but just it's loss causing entity and causes power loss through the circulating loops of currents which are established. So to avoid that, the best thing is that instead of having a bulk, if you are having any component, ferromagnetic component which is there, like this rotor, as you can see, it is always composed of thin laminations. So the laminations are stacked together, and I mean, this is not a very high resolution image, but if you look at a high resolution image, you will see that these are just thin laminations, and they are stacked together. So that way, what happens that there is no eddy current formation across, because the laminations are very thin. So there are no eddy current formations which can take place. So due to that particular purpose, it says here that to avoid those induced currents in the body of the rotor instead of the windings, it says that it is constructed of thin laminations, and that helps cut down the eddy currents. So Now coming to we'll look at one more important thing. As we said last class, we were also discussing that there are two types of arrangements you can have for this rotor of the synchronous generator. One is the permanent magnets, as we saw in this figure here, that one option is that you can have permanent magnets for the poles, or another option is that you can have electromagnets, so windings around these pole shoes, and those windings carry the DC current, and hence the magnetic field is established. So as I discussed last time also, that practically for large generators, we always prefer this electromagnet approach, because the permanent magnets, they tend to lose their magnetization, so they are not used for large motors or generators, only for small machines which can be preferred. So when we talk about so if you have electromagnet type of arrangement for supplying for generating the magnetic field on the rotor in the field winding, so as we said, a DC current must be supplied to the field circuit on the rotor if it is an electromagnet. And since the rotor is rotating, a special arrangement is required to get the DC power to its field windings. So you can probably appreciate this thing, that this rotor which is there, I mean the figure will look at this. So if you have the rotor here, and this is rotating at a very fast speed, as we discussed, a few hundred RPM or thousands of RPM even. So it's rotating at a very fast speed, and it has got a winding on its pole. So winding in a salient pole rotor, it can be like this around the pole shoes, or if you have a non-salient rotor, a cylindrical rotor, then the winding will be in the slots on the periphery of the rotor. So either way, in either of these arrangement, as you can probably appreciate, because the machine is rotating at a very fast speed, it becomes sort of a challenge to how to supply even the DC current required is very small, of the order of few amperes maybe, but still it is some sort of a challenge how to supply that current to the field winding. So there needs to be some arrangement for supplying that current in a rotating machine. So there are a couple of possibilities here. There are two common approaches for supplying this DC power. One is that you supply the DC power from an external DC source to the rotor by means of slip rings and brushes. That is one arrangement possible. And another is that supply the DC power from a special DC power source mounted directly on the shaft of the synchronous generator. So we will look at both of these arrangements today. So this is basically how you provide the excitation. So the excitation, or the field winding current, is known as the excitation basically. So the excitation to the field winding, that can be provided through one of these two approaches. So first let's look at the slip rings and brushes. What are these slip rings? So as it says here, slip rings are metal rings completely encircling the shaft of a machine, but insulated from it. One end of the DC rotor winding is tied to each of the two slip rings on the shaft of the synchronous machine, and a stationary brush rides on each slip ring. A brush is a block of graphite-like carbon compound and conducts electricity freely, but has very low friction so that it doesn't wear down the slip ring. So let's look at this in detail. Okay, so as the description said, that let's say if I take a sample, let's say for sake of simplicity, I am taking a cylindrical rotor only. So let's say this is my cylindrical rotor type of thing, and this is the shaft which is coming out from the rotor. And now this is placed inside. This will be encased in a particular type of encasing, which will be housing the stator and the stator windings. So now what it says, I need to supply. So this, let's say if for simplicity we are taking a cylindrical rotor, so there will be slots on this particular rotor, which will carry your field winding. The field winding will be placed in these slots. So now what we are saying is that we need to supply. So there is a winding which is going around here, and I need to supply the external current to it and external DC supply to it. So as we saw, there is something known as the slip ring type of thing. So these are two rings here. I mean, it is not touching the shaft, but going around the shaft like that. So actually, drawing with this stylus thing is quite challenging. Try again. So let's say this is one slip ring, and this is, let's say, another slip ring going around the shaft. It's not touching it. So as I said, it's insulated from this thing. So there'll be this. So these two slip rings, as it says here in the description, these are metal rings completely encircling the shaft of a machine, but insulated from it. So yeah. So metal rings completely encircling the shaft of a machine, but insulated from it. So some sort of arrangement you can probably hopefully visualize something here. So the shaft is this, and these are the two slip rings, metal rings, encircling it completely, but not touching it. And then you have how to connect it. So there is a brush arrangement. So one end of the DC rotor winding is tied to each of the two slip rings on the shaft of the synchronous machine. So the idea is that this winding which will be placed in the rotor, this will have, the winding will obviously, because it's a DC winding, so it will have two ends coming out. So one end will be connected to one of the slip rings through a brush type arrangement, and another end of this winding, this will be connected to the second slip ring, again through a brush type arrangement. So these are the carbon brushes, usually the graphite brushes which will be there. So that's how this slip ring and brush is not a really very good diagram, but yeah, I hope it serves the purpose. So there are these two slip rings, and then the two ends of the DC winding through these brushes, they are in contact with the slip rings. So as it says here, one end of the DC rotor winding is tied to each of the two slip rings on the shaft of the synchronous machine, and a stationary brush rides on each slip ring. And brush is usually a block of graphite-like carbon compound that conducts electricity freely but has very low friction, so that it doesn't wear down the slip ring. So as you can understand, it's rotating at a very fast speed. The shaft is rotating at a very fast speed, and it is continuously in touch with these rotating slip rings. So there will be, if there is a little friction also, there can be a lot of wear and tear which will be produced. So the effort is that there should be minimum friction between the brush and the slip ring, so that the maintenance effort needed is minimum and the wear and tear is minimum. But still, there is significant maintenance effort needed. And another thing is that also the resistance of the brushes has to be minimized. There should be no power drop in voltage drop across these brushes, which we want, ideally speaking. So the characteristic of the brushes is that they should be having very good electrical conductivity and also very less friction. Those things are needed. Now, if the positive end of a DC voltage source is connected to one brush and the negative end is connected to the other, then the same DC voltage will be applied to the field winding at all times, regardless of the angular position or speed of the rotor. So it's a simple arrangement, just a DC winding. So if you apply one particular end to a positive polarity, another to negative polarity, the same polarity will always be maintained for the winding. So that is a simple arrangement, mechanically speaking, that way. Not really very complicated thing. It's one of the simplest ways. So this is basically, the first one here is basically how traditionally the power was supplied to synchronous generators. But then there was some issues with this. So what is the problem here? Let's look at that. So these slip ring and brushes, they create a few problems when they are used to supply DC power to the field windings of a synchronous machine. And the most important, there are two problems. One is related to the wear and tear due to the mechanical issues, the friction between the brush and the slip ring. Another is due to the electrical losses. So it says here, they increase the amount of maintenance required on the machine, since the brushes must be checked for wear regularly. So as we said, though we try to ensure minimum friction, but obviously it's a mechanical moving part, so there will be wear and tear and friction. There will be damage will be there with the time. So maintenance required is little significant. And in addition, brush voltage drop can be the cause of significant power losses on machines with larger field currents. So this becomes especially significant when you have a very large synchronous generator. So if you have a large, big power plant, and let's say you have a 100 MVA or 500 MVA generator, which is having the your armature current of several hundred kiloamperes. So in that case, even the field current is of few kiloamperes. And in that case, this particular loss across the brush, that becomes quite significant and has must be minimized. So that brush voltage drop, this will be an issue for much larger machines, which we also encounter in typically large power plants. So they'll have large field current requirement, large excitation current requirement, and hence the brush voltage drop is significant. So these two problems, I mean, this is nothing new. This has been observed since several decades. So gradually, what people have moved to. So this was basically the initial. You can say the synchronous generators few decades back used to have this type of slip ring and brush arrangement. The present state of art is having a brushless excitation system. So to overcome these particular losses, typically we don't use slip ring and brush arrangement for the large machines which are actually used in the commercial or large scale power plants. So that's why here it says that despite these problems, slip rings and brushes are used on all smaller synchronous machines because no other method of supplying the DC field circuit is cost effective. So this typically the slip ring and brush arrangement is useful only for small synchronous machines, but for all commercial scale, large scale power plants which are having synchronous generators, usually we go for brushless excitation. So that is something which we'll look at now. So on large generators and motors, brushless exciters are used to supply the DC field current to the machine. So this is actually the state of the art. There are two variants in this also. We'll look at both of them one by one. So to begin with, a simple brushless exciter, where you remove the need for a slip ring and a brush type of arrangement. Now let's look at it. What is this arrangement? A brushless exciter is a small AC generator with its field circuit mounted on the stator and its armature circuit mounted on the rotor shaft. So this is opposite. For the main machine, the main synchronous machine which you are using for power generation, as we discussed right now, the synchronous machine has the field winding on the rotor because the field winding is a DC winding having much less current requirement, and the armature winding, the main winding which is carrying the output current, that is placed on the stator. So that is the arrangement for synchronous machine. But here, as you see, that for the exciter it is other way around. So exciter is also a small AC generator, but its field circuit is mounted on the stator and armature circuit is mounted on the rotor shaft. So that's why I told you earlier also that please make this terminology very clear in your mind. Whenever you talk about the moving parts, talk in terms of stator and rotor. Whenever you talk in terms of the windings or the electrical components, talk in terms of field and armature. And you should understand that you can place them invariably. I mean, one can be placed on rotor, another on stator, or vice versa. But only reason why we have this convention of having the armature winding on the synchronous machine in a large machine is that just because of the size of the large winding for a large current output machine. So here, as you see, for the small exciting AC generator, the arrangement is opposite. Field circuit on the stator and armature circuit on the rotor shaft. And so now what will happen is that, as you see, for that, so instead of giving the excitation to the main field winding, what we are doing is now that we are giving excitation to this small AC generator, which we are placing with a reverse arrangement of the circuits. So if I want to run this small AC generator, the same logic, I will need to give the two things will be needed for running any generator, like we discussed in the last class also. Two things are required. One is that you connect it to the prime mover, which gives it the the power input, the mechanical power input. And another thing is that you need to give a excitation current to its DC circuit or the field winding. So same two things are needed again here. So now, but only advantage is that what you have done is that because it is a small AC generator, so the field current needed is also much smaller. And the bigger advantage is that now this field current of the small AC generator, the field circuit is mounted on the stator. So that's very easy now. So the stator is a stationary part, and you can easily take out two ends of the winding and connect to the DC source. So the problem becomes solved. You don't have the slip ring and brush arrangement. And so how it is done is that now you provide the DC supply to the field winding of the small AC generator, which is also known as the exciter. So this field winding is on the stator. You provide the input, current to that, the DC excitation current to that, and the shaft is connected and it is rotating. So what is happening? Again, relative motion. the DC current is going to the stator field winding of the exciter, and due to that there is a magnetic field which is set up, and the rotor of this exciter that is rotating due to the connection being on the shaft, and now that rotor of the exciter is carrying the armature winding. So due to that particular effect, there is an induced voltage and current in the armature winding of the exciter. Exciter is the small AC generator which we are talking about here. Okay. So we are getting a three-phase output from the exciter generator if you are providing the DC supply and also rotating the shaft. And now what is done is that this three-phase output of the exciter generator, it is converted to a DC current by a rectifier type arrangement. Okay. And this rectifier is also mounted on the same shaft of the generator, and the output of the rectifier is another standard power electronic circuit which converts your AC current to DC current. So it converts the AC output of the exciter to DC, and this DC is then fed to the main DC field circuit. Okay. So that is the arrangement. Let's look at this now. I mean, we have discussed it theoretically. Now let's look at this particular figure. It will help you understand it better and make it more clearer. So this is the arrangement here. If you see, this is your main synchronous machine, which you want to run for generating the power. Let's say the synchronous generator we are talking about here. So this is your main machine, and this synchronous machine, as we have discussed, its armature, the main armature winding is on the stator. So in this figure, if you look at this horizontal line, everything above this horizontal line is on the rotor. Everything below this horizontal line is on the stator. So let's first look at the main machine. So your main machine, its armature winding, which will carry the output voltage and current, that is on the stator, and its field winding, which will carry the DC current and which will generate the magnetic field, that is on the rotor, as we discussed earlier also. So this is the main machine. And exciter, as we said, exciter is nothing but again another small AC generator, but in the opposite arrangement of windings. So here the armature of the exciter is on the rotor, and the field winding of the exciter is on the stator. And just to give you an idea how it is happening, let's say, suppose as we take that same example, let's take again, is that suppose that the output of this, the main synchronous machine output, which you are drawing from the armature, let's say this is 1000 amperes. And let's say the DC current needed for this setting up the field winding here is, let's say, as we said earlier, 10 amperes. So now this 10 ampere needs to come from the exciter armature. So you can understand the exciter will be a very small AC generator which will have output of only 10 amperes. And because it is having output 10 amperes, maybe now its excitation current needed might be maybe 0.5 ampere or something like that. So that's a very small current first of all, and even more advantageous is the thing is that this small current, this circuit is placed on the stator, which is stationary point. So you just simply provide input to it either through a DC source, or another option is that you can have through a three-phase input also, but then a rectifier type arrangement. So this arrangement, this bridge type arrangement which you see here, is the rectifier. So either way, I mean, rectifier is nothing. We'll not go into the working of the rectifier just because most of the students here are from non-electrical background. But for you, it is easy. Just you can understand these are like 6 switches basically, power electronic switches, and we can regulate their switching pattern in such a way that they convert your three-phase current to a DC current. So that is good enough for the non-electrical people right now. We'll not go in details of this. So the idea is that either you provide a DC supply to this exciter field, or because DC supply might not be that easily readily available, but three-phase supply is readily available in a power plant. So you provide three-phase supply only, but then use a rectifier to convert it to DC. This DC you give to the exciter field, which is on the stator. So this generates a magnetic field, and as we said, one magnetic field, this is needed for excitation, and the rotor is coupled to the rotor shaft is coupled to the prime mover, and that starts rotating. So again, this magnetic field is there, and there is the rotor is rotating, so there is a relative motion between the exciter armature and its magnetic field. So this induces a voltage and a current in the exciter armature. But because it is a AC generator, again this is a 3-phase current which will be generated here. So again another set of rectifiers is here. So again this is a 3-phase rectifier, converts this 3-phase current to a DC thing, and this DC current is now fed to the main field of the synchronous machine. So this entire arrangement, the exciter armature, the 3-phase rectifier, is placed along with the main field on the rotor. So this doesn't have any mechanical connection to the stator, okay? Because here, as you understand, this is power is being induced here. There is no physical connection. There is no connection through wires. It is through the electromagnetic field. So the power transfer from the exciter field to the exciter armature occurs through electromagnetic field, and then through 3-phase rectifier you supply it, make it DC and supply it to the field winding of the main synchronous machine. This again, same thing happens here. Here again, this generates a magnetic field, and because again there is now this rotator is rotating and stator is stationary, again there is a relative motion between this magnetic field and the armature, main armature winding. So again, through electromagnetic induction, there is power which is induced here, and this induced power you can then draw as the output from the main armature machine, main armature of the synchronous machine. So this is the entire arrangement for a brushless exciter, and this is how, what is the state of the art currently for the the utility scale power plants with the synchronous generators which are used in the actual power plants. Okay, so any questions you have regarding this? Because I discussed a lot of things. Please feel free to ask any question. Especially people from non-electrical background might have few confusions. So even from electrical background people, if you have confusion, please feel free.
Hello, sir. This is Harshvardhan.
Yes, Harshvardhan, tell me.
Sir, can you please explain the one more time this entire figure?
Yeah, so I'll do it other way around. You tell me, you start. I started from here. You start. What you go one by step. Wherever you stop, I'll help you. Start from
Okay,
here.
sir. Okay, sir. Firstly, we have the synchronous machine, and
Okay, this.
and
Right.
and we know the on the synchronous machine, the armature winding is on the starter and the field winding is on the rotor,
Correct.
which is the rotating part. And if we take the AC generator, the small AC generator, which is the exciter, on the exciter, it is the reversible of the synchronous machine. The armature winding is on the rotor and the field winding is on the stator.
Correct.
But sir, what is this three-phase rectifier is doing here, sir?
Okay, so see, this 3-phase rectifier is a power electronic circuit which converts your 3-phase current into a DC current. Okay, and how it happens? Basically, I mean, these are basically diodes. You can think of as diodes, or there are advanced power electronic devices like SCR is there, and which is also known as thyristor, or you have IGBT or different other MOSFET, different devices are there. But basic idea is that these are basically switches. Okay. So the idea is that now in this 3-phase, whatever is the current going here, that is having a reversing polarity. It goes positive one half and then negative another half. Now, if we can operate these switches in such a manner that if whenever the current polarity changes, we change the order of switching of these particular devices also, in such a manner that whatever current comes out of this rectifier is always having the same polarity.
Okay, sir.
So what will happen here is that I'll not go into much detail, but just to simply explain you is that I mean, suppose you are, and also I'm just taking a simple case of single phase rectifier, let's say, first of all. So suppose this is a single phase current which is going, voltage and current profile, let's say current is here. So what will happen is that when this positive polarity is there, then we'll have one particular arrangement, one set of switches which will be operating. As soon as the current switches to the negative polarity, we change the order of switches in such a way that, I mean, those initial switches are shut down and another set of switches are activated in such a way that they conduct the current in a opposite polarity. So this thing gets reversed here.
तो सर मतलब इसका मतलब
So yeah, just let me complete. So the output here would be something like this. Everything will be in the positive polarity, like this.
Okay. Yes sir, now it's clear sir, it's clear now. Now it's clear sir. मतलब सर हमें हर मतलब चाहे वो पॉजिटिव हो नेगेटिव में हमें आउटपुट चाहिए ये है ना मतलब.
Correct. And we want the output in the same polarity. We don't want in the opposite polarity.
Like we did in the forward bias and the reverse bias in 12th, in class 12.
Correct. Very true.
Okay,
Something similar.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So
ठीक sir.
rectifier, you just change the switching pattern of the devices in such a way, switches in such a way that it always changes, reverses the flow of current whenever the polarity reverses.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So this is there. Yeah. Any other question?
No, sir.
Sir,
Yeah.
you said lamination is provided in rotor to prevent eddy current.
Yeah. Please, I would. Pranit is speaking. Okay. Please tell your name whenever you speak.
Sir, Pranit, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, lamination is provided in rotor to prevent eddy current. Sir, how
Right.
it is working?
Yeah, so as we said, basically what is happening, these eddy currents, they are induced in the body of the ferromagnetic material. So if you have a bulk of a ferromagnetic material, so let's say this rotor here, if I just make it of one block of iron, that is also possible.
Yes.
Okay. So because because the core of the rotor, this is made of a ferromagnetic material, because it has to sustain the it should have sustain the magnetic field in a better way, so having high permeability. So now this thing here, what will happen is that one option is that I make it of just one block of iron. That will also work. It will perform the main function. But the problem is that now in the body of this rotor, there will be several circulating currents, loops, which will be formed. Why? Because there is a magnetic field here, and that is varying with time. Because this rotor is rotating. So due to that varying magnetic field, whenever there is a relative variation, as it discussed, there is a current which is induced. So within the bulk of the body of the rotor, there might be eddy currents which will be introduced, and these currents will not carry any useful work, but they will cause a power drain in the overall thing. So instead of doing it in terms of how we manufacture, is that for this particular rotor, we'll do is that we'll have very thin laminations like that. So these are like very thin laminations of few thickness each, and I just put them together. Okay, so like or this is not really clear. Maybe I'll just try to draw this. So let's say circular cross section, one lamination, another circular cross section lamination, another lamination. So these are metal laminations, having a very small thickness. And if I put them together, so hundreds of these laminations, I put them together and bolt them together by particular arrangement which is done there. So what will happen is that now the thickness of these, so there is a still, and these laminations, they are painted or varnished or done in a particular way, so that they don't, the current can't conduct from one lamination to the other. So now the space for these circulating loops to be formed is really cut down, So the laminations, they ensure that these eddy currents which are formed, the loops, they are much more minimized.
Okay, sir.
That's why this, if you try, we can't really zoom in here because the figure is low resolution, but if you try to focus here, you'll see that this appears to be, there are these, it's a vertical lines are going like this here in this particular fashion. So those are nothing but, the laminations which you can see.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that is the idea behind the laminations and cutting down the eddy current. I don't have another figure somewhere. So if you see here, this one, like this is, if you see there are these lines, you can probably, if you focus on this figure, you can see something like lines going here in, perpendicular to this particular width. The parallel to the width, perpendicular to the length of this thing, like this. So those are actually the laminations which have been placed together, and they're very thin. So few each lamination is few thick, and that's why it's not really very evident. But yeah, if you go and see a actual machine, it will be really evident. You can see by your own eyes.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other question?
Sir, I am Prashant Kumar Mohanty.
Yes,
I have
Prashant,
one question, sir. Sir, nowadays in generating stations, which type of synchronous machine we are using? Either brushless or brushed?
No, brushless is the de facto standard for any large scale machine which is used in power plant, because as we discussed, these brushes, slip ring and brush arrangement has got several disadvantages. So it might be used for some small machine, but not for large power plant machines.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, so ahead. Nitish, you want to say something?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, because your mic was on, so I thought you wanted to
No,
say.
I was saying no doubt. That's why.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now, this is one level of improvement actually. I mean, as you saw, we have eliminated the need of slip rings and brushes. And now we are supplying, also we have cut down on the external current requirement. It's very much small. And also it's on the stator, so there is no need of slip ring and brushes. But we can make one more level, one more iteration of improvement, is that suppose if I want my machine to be having completely self-reliant in terms of electrical power, no external power source. So that is also possible, and that, I mean, that might not be really very popular. I mean, this brushless exciter system is quite popular and used very fairly. But the next improvement which we are going to discuss, that might not be that very popular. Yeah, before that, this is just a figure to help you visualize it actually. So this is the rotor of the synchronous machine, and this is the shaft here. So this is the main field wind, and this is the main rotor, which, and these slots, they will encase the field winding here. So this is the main field winding will go in this, and this smaller circle here which you see, this is the exciter. So this exciter is placed on the same shaft and with the opposite winding arrangement. So that way. Okay, let's now move ahead. So, okay, so the advantage, yeah, this we already discussed, that brushless exciter requires much less maintenance because of the elimination of the wear and tear. Now, next level, as I said, if I want my machine to have completely no any need of any external electrical power, then we use this type of an arrangement, a brushless excitation with a pilot exciter. So this much is same. These first three, I mean the rightmost three columns, these we have already discussed, but there is something new which is coming in picture here, which is a pilot exciter. And what is this? Let's read it here. To make the excitation of a generator completely independent of any external power sources, a small pilot exciter is often included in the system. A pilot exciter is a small AC generator with permanent magnets mounted on the rotor shaft. Okay, permanent magnets mounted on the rotor shaft, and a three-phase winding on the stator. So note here again this is having the same winding arrangement as the main machine. Okay, this is a further, so exciter was a small AC generator. This can be even smaller, much smaller AC generator, and with again polarities, or not polarity, but rather the winding arrangement same as the main synchronous generator. So again here the permanent magnet which produces the which is equivalent of the field winding, which produces the magnetic field, that is mounted on the rotor shaft. So as you can see here on the rotor, this pilot exciter has the permanent magnets, and the synchronous generator, main synchronous generator, also has main field on the rotor. So this permanent magnet also does exactly the same function as the main field winding, that it establishes the magnetic field. Okay, it produces the permanent magnets mounted on the rotor shaft and a three-phase winding on the stator, and the three-phase pilot exciter armature that is on the stator. It produces the power for the field circuit of the exciter, which in turn controls the field circuit of the main machine. If a pilot exciter is included on the generator shaft, then no external electric power is required to run the generator. So this is actually, you can say, the best arrangement in case if you don't want to have any external electrical supply needed for the synchronous generator, then this type of arrangement might be needed. This is not very popular as of now, most of the power plants will probably go for a brushless exciter because it's quite simple. Here the complexity is slightly higher, as you can see, because every time you are using this one more level of exciter, then there are these need of the another 3-phase rectifier also which comes into picture. But in case this type of operation is desired, then this arrangement can be there. So here again, let's look at briefly at its working. There is just one more extra stage you have added. So basically there was first stage is your synchronous generator. Then one stage before that you have added now the exciter, which we discussed earlier also. And here you are adding one more stage before that, which is the pilot exciter. And how you are eliminating the need for external power requirement is that, because as we discussed, for any given synchronous generator, the external power supply is only needed for setting up the magnetic field. For the field winding, the external supply is needed. So how we are eliminating that now is that instead of having a field winding, this pilot exciter, which is a very small AC generator, this has got permanent magnets. So this is again similar what we discussed last class also, as I told that this permanent magnet is used only for very small AC generators or even AC motors, and when we use it for small synchronous motors, then we call it as PMSM, permanent magnet synchronous motors. So this is one example of that. And again, you can always take that analogy. This, let's say this output needed here is 1000 amperes. So the field winding current needed is around, let's say, 10 or 20 amperes. So this will be the exciter armature output needed here. So this exciter field maybe, let's say, 0.5 or 1 ampere. And now that is the output needed from the pilot exciter armature, 0.5, 1 ampere in that range. So this will be maybe few milliamperes. The current is not needed here, but the equivalent of that. So the field which needs to be established here is very small, very weak or small magnetic field needs to be established. So in such applications, permanent magnets can do well. They can do in a sustainable manner good performance. So that's why here. So this is how it's again very simple arrangement, and just one more. One more very simple to understand. Not arrangement is not simple. Arrangement is complex, but simple to understand is that we have added one more level here. So again, you can go follow that same particular logic. Is that now the rotor rotates because you have coupled it to the prime mover, and there is no external supply needed. You just couple it to the prime mover, you run the prime mover, and as soon as the prime mover starts rotating, because it is a permanent magnet having a permanent magnetic field, so as soon as the rotor starts rotating, there is a relative motion between this magnetic field and this armature, pilot exciter armature. So this induces a current in the pilot exciter armature. But again, this is a 3-phase current, so then you use a 3-phase rectifier and convert it to a DC current for the exciter field, and this happens on the stator of the machine. Then the exciter field, now here further analysis is same as the brushless exciter, that this particular exciter field, it gets DC supply and generates its own magnetic field. And again, because rotor is already rotating, there is a relative motion. This induces voltage in the exciter armature. Another 3-phase rectifier converts it to the main field current, which sets up the main magnetic field. And because of the relative motion, you get the final output from the main armature. So this is the brushless excitation system with a pilot exciter. Any question on this?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, so this is clear? Anyone? Please feel free. Ashutosh? Ashutosh, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Shivam? Shivam, you have any question, or is it okay? we are not able to hear you. Maybe you can write in chat. Yesterday also your connection was not good. I mean, it was not good. It's good. So, okay, Udit, anything you want to say?
No, sir.
Okay, so okay, that's good. Okay, so I think this is good enough. So we'll stop this class here itself because next topic will take time if we start now, and it's already close to. We'll stop here, and next class we will look at few more aspects of generator, and then we'll move on. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Stop
sir.
here.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.